Okay, so welcome back everyone to the Buddha Dharma Cure to the Mind, a commentary to Medicine Sutra and daily practices. So usually before we start with our class, we will meditate for 5 minutes. So everyone, you can try to sit comfortably, either with both feet flat on the floor, or if you choose to sit in a meditation posture with your legs folded. And then if you have glasses, you may remove them, put on the table. Let us rest our hands on our laps, making meditation gesture. We can either have our left hand on top of right or right hand on top of left, with two thumbs gently touching each other. We can close our eyes and gently tuck in our chin. Taking a few deep breaths as we regulate our breathing. Whatever that we haven't finished, we will continue later, and let us focus on our breathing. Let's relax from the top of our head and slowly and gradually, part by part, all the way until the sole of our feet. And now let us start with our meditation. Now let us take in 3 deep breaths. Breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in again, breathing out. Let us slowly open our eyes, gently wrap our palms together. Cover our palms over our eyes, the top of our head, over our ears, the back of our neck. Let's wrap our palms together again. Gently massage our shoulders, arms, all the way to our fingers and wrists. Let's rub our palms together one more time. Let's breathe in, breathe out as we bend forward. Massage our back, our thighs, knees, calves, all the way to our toes. You put back your glasses if you have one. Okay, so let's see. Okay. So before we discuss what I would like to share with everyone today, let us have a quick recap of what we have discussed last Saturday. So for us to find the right medication to our suffering or sickness that we're experiencing, we must first know the cause of illness or disease. After knowing the right medication, one must take it. If one does not take it, one may never recover. So which means like if we know the cause, we know the condition that triggers it, we will need to find solution to solve the illness or disease. The solution that we have found is not just a solution by itself, but we have to practice it, we have to take it, medication, and so on and so forth. So in the same way, even though Buddhist practices can heal the illnesses of the mind, if one refuses to practice them diligently, his or her disease may never be cured. Okay, so this is what we have discussed last week. And for today, I would like to share a little bit more in detail about how our body and mind are interconnected in so many ways. So as a quick introduction, the causes and condition of our body and mind change according to both internal and external factors. So when we learn about dukkha, or based on the Four Noble Truths, we get to know the causes of suffering. We also discussed briefly last week. We know that many times when our physical body experience discomfort or experience changes, it is mainly due to the change of external environment. It could be the weather, it could be certain humidity or certain factors that involve external factors. But it also comes from within, internally. So for example, the food that we eat, it could be the changes in the cells, tissues, and all the internal factors. And for today, we're going to look a little bit in details in terms of how the changes in our body is because of our mind, and how our emotions that we have, the feelings that we have in our mind, it is because of the physical changes. So body and mind, in many ways, they are interconnected. And based on the doctors, whether it's Western doctors or Chinese doctors, most of the time, the doctors focus more on the physical conditions. Even though like in terms of like Chinese medication, like later we'll discuss a little bit more, Chinese doctors may look at the changes physically, certain part of our body, certain organ in our body, it could give rise to emotional changes. It's because of the physical changes. In Buddhism, we're going to look at how the influence of our mind can help our physical body, whether to recover or to be in a better condition. Okay, so changes of our body may affect our mind, and the state of our mind may influence our body. So body and mind, they are interconnected in so many different ways. So let us look at one sutra that the Buddha shared with the disciples on one occasion. This sutra was recorded in Chinese in Taisho. Okay, so the Buddha shared there are actually like 10 main, not only 10, but 10 main causes and conditions of sickness. These causes could be many, many reasons. Out of the many, the Buddha mentioned 10 of them. So the first one is something that most of us experience, especially these days, especially when the pandemic started, is sitting too long for a period without moving, especially when we are sitting in front of the computer, especially when we are working on something, when our mind is very focused in getting things done, we might have forgotten that we have seated for too long. Okay. So sitting too long of a period without moving, it causes physical discomfort. Okay. And eating too much is also one of the main reasons to sickness. Okay. So, and the third and the fourth is mainly the emotional changes, like sickness. And fatigue is more of like the physical condition, like feeling tired. And the fifth one, excessive sexual desires can also lead to sickness in a way. And then 6 is anger. And 7, postponing excrement, it also causes physical problems. And the same goes to urination and even holding one's breath or suppressing gas may cause the physical discomfort or sometimes give rise to sickness. Okay, all the 10 is something that we can aware of it, we can change, or once we're aware, if we know that it's not so good, we try to change. Like for example, our physical habit, like not sitting too long, we try to have either a timer, something to remind us not to sit too long. And some of us even have a modified working station where one can opt for like working in front of a computer by standing. Okay, there are many, many ways that we can change. What the Buddha shared with us are the 10 main causes and conditions that will lead to the physical discomfort or sickness in a way. Okay, it could be something that is due to emotion. It could be because of something that we desire of. It could be because of our greed. It could be also because of our lifestyle that we are used to it. Okay, so a little bit more in details, I kind of like share with everyone a photo, a picture of the different parts of our physical body. Again, I'm not a Chinese doctor. I'm not someone who has medical knowledge in it, but this is based on what I've read from the sutra, and it's based on what the Buddha shared with us in many different ways. And some of the sharing, it might sound as if that it is part of like the Chinese doctor's advice. But again, I'm not sharing from that perspective. I'm sharing from the perspective of a Buddhist practitioner and how we are being more aware of the possibility or the occasion where we experience imbalance in our emotions that might affect our physical well-being. So the keyword here is imbalance in emotion. We all have feelings every single moment of our day, every day. Sometimes it's pleasant feelings, sometimes it's unpleasant feelings. There are many, many ways that we experience changes every day. Okay, so when it comes to our physical well-being, sometimes it could be because of our emotions that we are so used to it and we are not aware of it. And eventually when we overdo it, it gives rise to the imbalance of our emotion. And that will eventually affect our physical well-being for long term. Okay, so one of it is when we experience extreme happiness or constantly in a state of mind where there's fear. Okay, so when we are in this emotion for too long, it actually will affect our heart. Okay, and not only the well-being of our heart, some of us might even experience like insomnia. sometimes like dizziness. When we are in fear, sometimes like the tension like within the whole body of like our muscles, shoulders, and so on and so forth, everything are tightened up because of fear. The same goes to like when we are over like extreme, like this word extreme is a key, extreme happiness. Not only like you will feel like the tightening of different parts of our body, but when we are sleeping, sometimes like some of us might even talk, like what do you call that, sleep talking or sleepwalking or sleep, and even like a lot of dreams when we sleep. Okay, the next one is when we have imbalance of the emotion of anger. Okay, if we constantly get angry easily, it might actually affect the well-being of our liver. Okay, so we know that liver is a very important organs in our physical body. Okay, so some of us might observe the physical changes of, like, for example, like the eyes can feel tired, the nails like cracking, even sometimes when we eat, you will constantly taste the bitterness in one's taste buds. Okay, so it is because when we are in a state of mind, emotions of like anger constantly, it will affect the organs of our liver. Okay, and when it comes to a person where one experiences anxiety, like or sadness or excessive grief that one is in, it will actually affect our lungs. So sometimes a person who is like in a deep sadness or grieving, one will experience like shortness of breath, even coughing, because like not enough oxygen, shortness of breath, it will lead to fatigue. Sometimes it also affects like having coughing, and coughing will eventually leads to sore throat. And it's very interesting to see the interconnection, how all the causes and conditions are interdependent on each other. And when it comes to greed, this is also another interesting part, is like greed sometimes like, oh, why does it relate to the stomach? Imagine like when it comes to food, okay, food is something that we have to have. Most of us have like 3 meals or 2 meals a day. So when it comes to greed, is every day we have the best opportunity to observe the possibility of giving rise to greediness. If a person is constantly in that emotion of like greed, constantly craving for food, and our mind, if we are not being mindful of it, what will happen if it is our favorite food? Of course, like we will lead to overeating. When we are overeating, that will give a lot of burden to our stomach. So this is one of the main emotions that we have to look out, or the habits that we have to look out. And the other one is shock. This is the type of like where it will like in some connection, like the heart, because of fear, constant fear. Here is mainly like shock, like sudden thing that just pop up, and then we are being shocked by that. And some of us might easily get shocked by a sudden movement, something that is just pop up, or a sudden change of like the environment, that will affect our kidney in a way. And when it affects our kidney, there'll be like reaction, like frequent urination, like night sweat. And sometimes it will also affect our having like low back pain, ringing in the ears, and many other symptoms that will follow because of the constant state of our mind that is in like shocking manner. Okay, and these are what our physical conditions of different parts of our organs. It could be because of our imbalance in our emotions. And just like when I mentioned about the beginning of the class, is like sometimes when we go to the doctor, of course, the doctor try to examine whatever that is physical, try to examine and collect the possible evidence. And even some of us might later days, or we might experience like heart disease, or even like discover cancer, or like the physical changes or physical sickness that we experience. Sometimes the doctor might not be able to trace all the way to the cause that give rise to it. What the doctor will do usually is to give the best medication that a doctor would recommend, try to enables us to feel comfortable. The same goes to the disease of our mind. Nowadays, we know that mental health is very important. And when it comes to mental health, if a person were to go to psychologist, and of course, there'll be session where there'll be talking or consultation that can help a patient. But sometimes psychologists might prescribe medication for a person to kind of like balance the mental health. The medication can help the current situation in a short time, in a short term. But for us to really solve the cause, to solve the problems of our physical discomfort or the disease of our mind, we have to really get to the root cause of what is giving rise to the discomfort or the disease in a way. So when it comes to disease of the mind, okay, so we suffered from disease is when we cannot really settle in a peace of mind, into the peace of mind. Okay, we sometimes is because when we are in a situation where we are unable to control our anger, and of course like resolve in hatred, when we continuously giving rise to anger, eventually we will also develop hatred in our mind. Okay, when it comes to like accumulative anger, for example, like if we have interaction with a person, and that person unintentionally might have done something that might triggers our anger. Sometimes we might choose not to say a thing. Sometimes we might choose to just being quiet of it. But the anger in our body, the anger in our mind will continuously accumulate because we didn't solve it in the first place. So after one incident after the other, and eventually it will come to a day where that person, but by just doing a tiny mistake, or just a tiny thing that a person have done to us ourselves, we might just burst into anger. It is because of their continuously accumulated anger within our mind. So when this small tiny condition, it actually becomes the triggering factors of getting anger and eventually developed into hatred. Okay. And then we suffer from diseases when we cannot calm a fearful mind, where we talked a little bit earlier, and that we are constantly afraid of, in fear or in shock. Okay. And when we cannot cease arguing, sometimes like when we come to disagreement is when we kind of like hold on to our viewpoints, hold on to what we want to say, what we want to do, what we have in plan, but others cannot have a consensus with what we have planned. Because of all of this, we cannot cease arguing. Eventually, of course, like we will continue to raise our voice. When we raise our voice, it becomes not only arguing, but it will evolve into disagreement. It will evolve into the imbalance of emotions in our mind, which will eventually affect different parts of our body. And when we cannot stop competing especially in the working life today. It is very competitive to many of you. You have work to do, you have the family to take care of. There's peer pressure, there's a pressure from the society, and so on and so forth, that influence a person to constantly in a state of mind where one wants to compete and excel from the rest of the group, excel in one goal or vision. Okay, so that mind, if we cannot stop competing, that has developed a state of mind where we actually attached, holding on so tightly to the vision that we have, and the attach has a lot to do with the craving. Okay, it has gone beyond not just what we plan, but we have already hold on to it, and there's a lot of craving in terms of what we want to do, and we might have forgotten the big picture. We might have forgotten what others have to say with it. So that state of mind it is, I wouldn't say the word dangerous, but in some ways, if a person really indulged in the idea of like winning all the time, one might eventually proceed on to the next step where a person will try different ways, whether it is wholesome or unwholesome, in trying to win this competition, which is not very good if a person were to opt for unwholesome ways in winning this competition. So it is something that we have to be aware of it. Okay, so when we suffer disease, when we cannot practice humility and offer tolerance to others, this is kind of like interconnected in many ways. When we cannot recognize that quietude is appropriate, sometimes being quiet or just observe, it can help our mind to stay focused. It can help our mind to stay calm. Okay, when we cannot endure life's difficulties, when there's too many things that happen, one after the other, especially at the beginning of the pandemic last year, where I watched the news, there are many families might not even have the ability to put food on the plate, food on the table. And there's even like family losing the job. When one lost a job, one lost the insurance, not only insurance, medical insurance, car insurance, and cannot repay the rent. Many things are interconnected. When one lost a job, one cannot put food on the table, one will experience and endure many life difficulties. When that happens, it acts as an accumulated stress that one has in one's mind. Okay, so when we cannot endure all these life difficulties, of course, like not only it will affect the emotions that we're experiencing, but also eventually it will be too much for our mind to handle. When it is too much for our mind to handle, it will affect the physical well-being. Okay, and then the disease of the mind. Okay, one of it is when we cannot lead a simple lifestyle. Okay, sometimes living in a simple lifestyle, meaning that we appreciate whatever that we have. We feel grateful with whatever that we have. We have the necessities, we feel sufficient and not longing for the unnecessities, like the things that we don't really need. So sometimes simplicity lifestyle also helps to solve any of the disease that we might have in our mind. Okay. And of course, practice proper etiquette. Like for example, just by having fixed time for 3 meals a day or 2 meals a day is part of a proper etiquette. Okay, you might be wondering why. Okay, so when we have the certain time to have our meals, like for example, breakfast, some of us might just skip breakfast. Some of us might wake up at like 10 o'clock in the morning and do brunch, breakfast and lunch together. When we do not practice proper etiquette in terms of like having meals at a proper time or at on a fixed time, okay? So like for example, for us, like we have breakfast at 7:30, we have lunch at 12 noon, and then we have medicinal meal at 5:30 in the evening, in the afternoon. So when we have a fixed time for our meal, then we will have a more scheduled lifestyle. So with a more scheduled lifestyle, of course, like it will help our mind to be mindful and be on track on doing other things, okay, other than taking meals, okay. So practicing proper etiquette not only helps our mind to be more aware and be more mindful, but also it is actually beneficial to maintain our physical well-being. Okay, so we suffer disease when we cannot cease our fear of death, or lastly is like we cannot reorientate erroneous perceptions in a way. So when we see things in not a right way, in an erroneous way, so whatever that we perceive, we translate it in a wrong message, in not the right message. Okay, like for example, when we see whatever that is happening, a person, and we thought that this is the whole picture, but we actually misunderstood certain aspects. Like for example, like the COVID vaccine today. So many people are still reluctant to have the injection, to have the vaccine. It could be because of personal reasons or physical reason, could be because of certain religious practice reason. But when the scientists develop the vaccine, is for the beneficial, is for the greater good for everyone in the society. But like a few days ago, right in front of a temple, we even received flyers like stating that, like giving a false information saying that the COVID is a hoax, the vaccine is not true, is not really helpful to one physical body. Is all this erroneous misinformation that is out there that will leads us to misperception if we are not being careful. So when we believe our misperception or our misinformation, eventually it will influence and affect the well-being of our mind. Okay, so in many ways, these are just one of the many that will lead to the disease of our mind, and also the discomfort of our physical body. Okay, so very important that every day when we wake up in the morning, whether we wake up on the right side or the left side of our bed, or make sure that we, whenever we have unwholesome thoughts that in our mind, we try to be aware of it and replace with wholesome thoughts that we have. Okay, so in the Medicine Buddha Sutra, okay, it stated that as one of the great vows of the Medicine Buddha, so in a future lifetime, upon my enlightenment, if there are any sentient beings who, due to the enforcement of local laws, find themselves sentenced to flogging, incarceration, torture, execution, or any other manner of brutal punishment, they shall be aided by hearing my name. For those who are insulted, humiliated, or in abject misery or who are oppressed by burning anxiety, suffering in body and mind, if they hear my name or the medicine Buddha's name, due to the power of my inspiring spiritual elan, okay, all shall gain release from their suffering and woes. Okay, so this is actually referring to the mental entanglements that one might have. Okay, so one of the great vows of the medicine Buddha, okay, is to make to help those who are being imprisoned, not only like really imprisoned in a jail or in prison, but sometimes a person might be imprisoned by one's wrongdoings, or sometimes it is because being imprisoned by our ignorance, being imprisoned by the sorrow that we have, the grief that we have, or even the anxieties that we might imprison ourselves in our mind. Okay, so mental entanglements is what we talk about it when it comes to like imprison ourselves in the emotions that we experience. This vow was made for the liberation of sentient beings, okay, who are imprisoned for their wrongdoings or being punished by law due to false accusations, or in a moment of ignorance, they committed such wrongdoings. Or there are those being oppressed by various tribulations, injustice, and humiliations. So sometimes like, those who are in the jail or prison, sometimes it could be because of wrong influence, unwholesome influence that leads to one committing something that is unlawful. Eventually, one will end up in a prison. Like for example, like recently I heard a story where a person like he was actually a police officer, and he was just like 30 years plus. Okay, and then there was one day that this officer was being approached by a drug dealer, and this drug dealer kind of like offered to this officer, saying that if you let me go this time, I will be able to share a portion of my profit to you. So this officer, because of being blinded by greediness of the money that one will get, and eventually this officer agreed to let this drug dealer let loose this drug dealer. And when this drug dealer was out there making transactions and selling, and eventually this whole group was being caught by another officer. And eventually they were being questioned why they sell drugs, and then who are the ones that are in this circle of like selling drugs. If the drug dealer were able to give more information to the officer, the drug dealer will be able to reduce one's sentence. So eventually the news was out, and then this officer were being named as one of the person who helped this transaction to go through. And eventually, long story short, this officer eventually being jailed because of this wrongdoings. Okay, and because this sentence itself is already very heavy, not to say towards a police officer who knows the law and yet still break the law. So the sentence is twice heavier than any of the civilians. Okay, so when this officer was in the prison, okay, this officer actually regretted and then reflected on whatever that he had done. And eventually he started to learn more and more about the sutras, to learn more about the Buddha's teachings and learn how to meditate. And then within like the 5 years that this former officer was in the prison, he actually shared what he experienced, like the differences, the changes after practicing meditation, after practicing the Buddha's teachings with other inmates in the prison. And because of his good behavior, he actually, at first, he was being sentenced like lifetime in jail. But eventually, after 5 years, because of his contribution in the prison, and because of his behavior when he was in the prison, he was released from prison after 5 years. Okay. So when it comes to mental entanglements or the ignorance that one has, sometimes it's just because of one short moment that we are not aware of what we are doing. We are not being mindful of what we're doing. We might be covered by the greediness that we might have. We might be covered by the hatred that we might have at that moment, which leads to our following action that we might regret later on, or it might lead to the words that we say to others that we might regret later on. So we are all learning how to improve ourselves. We are all like trying to do a lot of reflection or being mindful at all times by practicing the Buddha's teachings and learning more about the Buddha Dharma. And eventually we will constantly change and improve ourselves. Okay. And when our mind is on the right track, then only then we can look at our physical well-being. Okay. So when our mind is filled with anxieties or something that we hold on to it and we cannot find a solution to it, that state of mind is just like like in a corner of our room. We know that it's already in a corner, but our mind keep thinking, moving towards closer and closer to the corner of the wall, knowing that there's no way out. But if we turn around, if we look around, we can actually see this exit, there's bigger room behind that small corner of the wall. So the same goes to our practice. The main reason why we practice and we learn the Buddha's teachings is the Buddha can share with us like his personal journey in one's practice, in the Buddha's practices, and share with us the Buddha's realization. And eventually we learn how to turn around. We learn how to let go of the emotions that we hold on to it. And only then the physical sickness that we might experience, of course, with the help of medication, only then we will be able to solve the root problem to our mental problems or our physical problems. Okay. So another examples that I would like to share with everyone, the interconnection between our body and mind is the founder of Foguangshan, Verbal Master Xing Yun. Throughout his whole life, okay, he always have the mindset of be friend with sickness. Okay, as well know, when the Buddha before enlightenment was still a prince, he sneaked out of the palace, and only then he realized that for our physical body, we experience sickness, old age, death constantly in this cycle. Every one of us experience that. There's none of us who experience any exception from feeling sick or getting disease throughout the whole life. The same goes to Verbal Master Xing Yun. Okay, we all know like when he renounced at a very young age, he was like 12 years old, and he renounced and become a monk. Okay, when he lived and stayed in the Buddhist temple back then, life was very hard. Okay, food is constantly scarce, not enough for everyone. Even like Verbal Master once described that taking porridge is just like drinking soup. Okay, like as part of the Chinese dish, like when it comes to porridge or congee, it's like we put grains of rice, and then we put a lot of water and we cook for some time. And when it comes to porridge, usually it's watery, but then there's like grains of rice that mixed with it. But during that, when Verbal Master was practicing in the temple when he was very young, life was very hard. When they have porridge, it's just like the soup. There's just a very few grains of rice that is in the water. Okay. At the age of 17, Verbal Master actually had malaria, okay, where the whole body was like cold, and he was like very, very sick and unable to go for morning chanting, unable to go together to have breakfast, lunch, and so on and so forth. And eventually, when the master knew that Verbal Master was like experiencing sickness, he asked his attendant to give him a half bowl of pickled vegetable to eat. When Verbal Master accept that half bowl of pickled vegetable, in his mind, he felt very grateful and appreciative of what his master has given to him. At that state of mind, in his mind, he vowed, okay, while eating this half bowl of pickled vegetable, he vowed that when his body recovers, he's going to give back fully in the propagation of the Dharma. Everything that he will do is for the sake of Buddhism. It's just because of the half bowl of pickled vegetable. And it is one of the possibilities is because of what Verbal Master has in his mind, where he was eager to get well. And after taking that half bowl of pickled vegetable, his whole body recovered from malaria. And even like at the age of 20, Verbal Master actually had smallpox. Okay, you know, like many years ago, like smallpox was like very dangerous. If a person gets smallpox, like one might lose one's life. But of course, like because of the availability of vaccine, like we hardly hear anyone getting smallpox nowadays. Okay, but when Verbal Master was 20 years old, he actually had smallpox, and the whole body is filled with all the what do you call that? Like rashes, and not only rashes because of like itchiness. There's like scratches, and when he wants to remove or like wear the clothing, sometimes he felt so painful. Is because the skin and the cloth stick together because of the, I'm not sure what to call that, because of infection, because of inflammation that make it very discomfort and also give rise to pain. And when his classmate knew about it, he happened to have two small tablets. I'm not sure what it called, I don't know how to pronounce the exact medical name, but it's a type of antibiotic, just two tablets that this classmate has given to Verbal Master. And after taking that two tablet, Verbal Master recovered from the smallpox. Okay, there are many incidents where with the manage or with the power of the mind, and of course with the right medication, Verbal Master actually recovered from sickness. And of course, throughout his whole life, he knew that there's always sickness. There's good times, there's not so good time. Even like at the age of like 29, because Verbal Master wanted to promote the printing of the Buddhist canon. Back in those days, he has to bring his own radio. And the radio is not like nowadays, you just use a small cell phone or some small device that you can play the music or be a microphone. But back in those days, the radio is as heavy as almost 50 pounds of weight. And then when he was in Taiwan, it's not like he has like private car to travel from one place to the other. He has to take the public transportation. And because the road was bumpy, he was afraid that the radio will get damaged because of the bumpy road. He put this 50 pounds of radio on his legs and sat for 7 to 8 hours traveling by the bus, going from one place to the other. And eventually, after his road trip in promoting the Buddhist canon, he actually felt numbness in both legs. And when he went to the doctor said that he had developed a type of like arthritis, and he almost lost his legs, both legs. When he heard the news from the doctor, Verbal Master thought in his mind, thinking that he's not like, oh no, I will not be able to walk again. But Verbal Master in his mind, he think of like, oh, if I cannot walk again, then I can do more work in writing articles. I can be in one place to share and promote the Dharma, even more in a more focused mind, so that he didn't have to travel from one place to the other. He can just concentrate and be one place. Imagine if I were being told that I might not be able to walk again, how would one react usually? Of course, like we'll be in shock, and then we will reject, saying that, why me? How did it happen? And so on and so forth. But for Verbal Master, in his mind, he just go with the flow and appreciate whatever that he experienced. This is what Verbal Master has talked about or promote all this while about befriend with sickness, okay, throughout his whole life. I have more stories to tell, but because of the time, I'm going to go to the conclusion for my sharing today. All of this disease actually mainly caused by our rigid attachments to an idea, belief, person, appearance, possession, emotion, status, or experience, to anything at all. If we can understand the true meaning of detachment and the true nature of emptiness, and treat all illnesses with this awareness, we will then have the perfect miracle medicine to remove the roots of disease. Both the body and mind need to be taken care of, okay? And the medicine of Buddhism is the ideal remedy. Use the Dharma to heal our mind, and the path to true health will open for us. Okay, so this is what I would like to share with everyone. And now we still have a little bit time for question and answer. I know that there are many things that we will slowly discuss more and more from this Medicine Buddha Sutra, but there are many practices that the Buddha promotes or share with us. It actually relates to our everyday life. It actually relates to how we can take this opportunity of whatever that we experience, whatever that we embrace every day, to reflect upon, to apply what we learn from the Buddha. Okay, so questions?
Thank you, Venerable. Denny, I think, had a comment first.
Okay, yes, thank you, Sava. Danny?
Yeah, Venerable, when you were mentioning Venerable Master's list, and one of the things that was said was stop competing. And I had kind of a strong reaction to that, because in American society, this is almost sacrilegious. We are a very competitive society, and we believe that competition is good. Now, personally, I don't believe that. I think it's overdone quite a lot, and there's a lot of negative consequences to a lot of competition going on. And I won't go into that. But here's my question or dilemma. This had something to do with my career as a professor. I always wanted to be successful. And I thought, well, okay, I want to be a good teacher so that my students learn a lot. And I wanted to advance knowledge. So I published several books and whatnot. Now, my question is, how much is too much? Is that, you know, in a sense, that can be seen as a very selfish motivation. You know, I'm trying to enhance my status, my reputation, be a stellar professor, super professor, et cetera, versus maybe the good I could do by doing a good job. So those are very subtle and, but they're very necessary questions to ask as you go along in life. That's my thoughts or my question to you. When do you know where you're going off the path?
Thank you, Danny, for asking this such a great question. Okay, instead of like answering your question straightforward, let me share with everyone a metaphor. Competition or like competing with others is just like salt to a dish. For us to have competition with others, it's necessary, just like what you say. Okay, the same goes to the salt that we put in the dishes that we cook every day. Okay, how much is sufficient? For myself, I would just do this little salt to the dish that I feel that, oh, the taste is already okay. But to the person sitting next to me, a person who wants more flavor, the person will say, oh, this is tasteless. I need more salt. Okay, that goes back to your question of how much salt is sufficient. So this is a very, this question goes back to every one of us. Okay, how much is enough? How much is the level that I can handle? Okay, so if, of course, like competing with everyone is just like the air pressure in a ball. Okay, for a ball to bounce, we need air in a ball. Sufficient air in a ball will make it bounce just nicely. But if we put too much air in a ball, what will happen to the ball? The same goes to the competition in our mind. When we compete with others, we know how far we can go. And then if we take too much of it, towards the end of the day, when it's time for us to go to bed, our mind's still thinking about the different strategies that we have to win others, we have to excel from others, be better than others. Then we know that we have gone a little bit too far than what we can handle. And it has affected our mind, the clarity of our mind, the ability for us to focus, the ability to do whatever that we need to do every day. Then we know it has gone beyond what we can handle. Okay, so but then competition, just like what you mentioned, sufficient, like as a scholar, you will experience the pressure of writing articles, publishing books, and also like presenting your thesis or dissertation in a forum. There's always pressure. Different walks of life, every one of us has pressure. Like for myself, I have to maintain this temple, making sure that I can still turn on the lights every day, water on the tap, being able to share the Dhamma, being able to do many things. But we all know how much salt is sufficient, how much competition, like the stress that we can manage is a good amount to us. Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Venerable. Liam, would you like to go next?
Liam.
Yes, thank you. Amitabha.
Amitabha.
Actually, I just have one question about my dad, because he used to be a lazy person in the whole family of us. Because we are all Buddhist practitioners, he's the laziest person in our family. And he also got PTSD, the post-traumatic disorders, because he lacked the proper treatment from the government for veterans, because he was officer of the army in another front line during the Vietnam War. So now he got constant Alzheimer, and he's unable to focus on things that we're trying to express to him or advise him in the Buddhist way. So the only shortest way method that we could advise him is that he should let go anything that he's hold up in his mind, believe in the Buddha, believe in the Pure Land, do repentance, and vow to be reborn in the Pure Land. Because we try to explain to him that he has to recognize that he's old already, and he doesn't have many years to live on. So that is all we can advise him. But I would like to know what's the better way to help him in this, because we also pray to the Buddha to find a way to help him, and also we also do repentance for him and transfer our merits of daily practice to him. But I'm just afraid that if he doesn't acknowledge or practice himself, he will be resulting in the hell, because of all the sins that he has caused in this and previous life, especially during the Vietnam War.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. I think as for this moment, family support is very important, meaning that as family members, whatever that he has done is in the past, whatever that he has experienced as a family member, we will just need to embrace it. And most importantly, like you yourself or other family members should let him know, instead of like letting go, you should let him know, saying that you don't have to worry about us. Like for example, like speaking on behalf of you, you can tell your dad, saying that you have already grown up, you know how to take care of yourself. You have your own ability to manage your day-to-day life. Just convince your dad by giving him like acknowledgement and thankful for whatever that he has done in bringing you up as an adult today. Even though like we might have lots of like negative thinking in our mind, but we try to direct a very more positive thoughts or mindset that we have towards your dad. Okay, and family support is always very important. Just like what you mentioned, like you do repentance, you do chanting, you do recitation of the Buddha's name, or even like if at home, if you have a chanting box, like like a small box that can do the chanting like repeatedly. Whether it is the name of Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva, Guanyin Bodhisattva, Amitabha Buddha's name. It could be a chanting that goes on every day, very softly in the background. It will help to soothe and calm the whole environment in your family. Yeah. The thought of like, oh, your dad is like lazy or not doing anything. Everyone will experience our own karma based on our action. We try our best to advise others. If others cannot change, we have already done our part. We have already helped so far. It's just like when the Buddha was around, the Buddha will share the Dharma to those who have affinity with him, ready to listen to Dharma. If a person doesn't have affinity to learn the Dharma, just like the first person that the Buddha met after enlightenment, they just walk past each other, not even uttering a word, not even saying a word. So even the Buddha cannot help those who doesn't have affinity with him, not to say ourselves. And whatever that we have to say, we say it. We always give our family the sunshine, the positive thoughts, the positive wholesome words that we can say to our parents, to your dad. It acts as a support, encouragement to him where he needed most at this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned that he's experiencing Alzheimer. It's already experiencing losing of memories. Yeah. So what we can do is try to repeatedly saying the same words, encouragements to your dad repeatedly, because your dad might forget. So that is the greatest support that you can give your dad as for this moment. And I hope that this is helpful.
Yeah, it is very insightful and helpful. Thank you, Venerable. Amitabha.
Okay, is there many more?
Venerable, there are 2 more questions. Would you like me to combine them?
Oh, where is it?
There's a question from Phyllis, which actually I think you began answering. What are some kind Dharma words we can share to someone who is suffering from sickness or when loved one is sick?
Yeah, I think I kind of mentioned a little bit. Thank you.
And then from Charles, what does Medicine Buddha Sutra teach us about improving one's Sila, Samadhi, and Panna practice? Reciting Buddha's name or imagine Buddha's image is part of Buddha Nusati, contemplating Buddha's quality. This might improve Samadhi. Isn't this correct?
Yeah. So in short, in the Medicine Buddha Sutra, it's reciting the Buddha's name and also the Medicine Buddha's mantra. But most importantly is we learn from Medicine Buddha in terms of how do we handle our emotion? How do we practice so that our mind eventually be in a state of mind of clarity and purity. So I have one session that I'm going to talk more about these 3 precepts, concentration, and also the wisdom cultivation. If you look at the schedule, the syllabus that I share with everyone, there are 3 separate sessions that we're going to look into a little bit in detail. Yeah. Okay. So I hope Charles can wait until then for further explanation to your questions. But because of the time we have gone over, so sorry about that. Okay, let me conclude our sharing for today by doing a dedication of merit. So let us all join our palms. May kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity pervade all worlds. May we cherish and build affinities to benefit all beings. May Chan, Pure Land, and precepts inspire equality and patience. May our humility and gratitude give rise to great vows. And I hope that every one of you will have a great week. Until next week, next Saturday, I do not have any readings suggested for this, but everyone can continuously get familiarized with the whole Medicine Buddha Sutra. And for next Saturday, I'm going to share with everyone the meaning of the Medicine Buddha's mantra. And we're going to do a short cultivation in reciting the Medicine Buddha mantra. Okay, so that will be for next Saturday. And I hope to see everyone, and hope that everyone continue to stay safe. And then please check the Google Classroom from time to time. And if you have any comments or any questions, feel free to leave it in the Google Classroom. So I see everyone next Saturday. Thank you. Amitabha.
Amitofo.
Amitofo.
Thank you.
Thank you.